Good evening, executive members, fellow councillors, officers and members of the public, both watching and in the public gallery. Good evening and welcome to this evening's meeting of the Waverley Executive. This is a special executive meeting. I will start with item 1 on the agenda, which is apologies for absence. I understand there is one apology.
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies from Councillor Jenny Else.
Thank you very much. Declarations of interest.
None received, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Ms Cameron. Item number 3 on the published agenda is Waverley Borough's Local Plan Part 2. And for anyone watching or listening in, just so that we are clear on this one, the Local Plan Part 2 pre-submission draft has been withdrawn as an item from this agenda and the forthcoming Special Council agenda later this evening. We therefore move to item 4, which is Community Infrastructure Levy, the adoption of the charging schedule, and I will, noting I've got no speakers on that item, I will ask the portfolio holder if he'd like to introduce that. Thank you, Councillor Story.
Thank you, Leader. This is quite an exciting time for the Council. We're moving from this old Section 106 to the later and more lucrative, from the Council's point of view, charging schedule using SIL. And this is following the successful examination which happened earlier this summer with the inspector agreeing with pretty much everything that we had put forward. Implementing this levy on just the certain types of new development that are covered will provide us with a greater income, not just to the Council, but to other interested groups, Farnham Town Council, Godalming Town Council and the other parishes, the County Council and other organisations who deliver infrastructure. And the SIL will allow us to support these developments within the borough with suitable infrastructure. It also provides for a more strategic approach to infrastructure delivery, and we're not losing Section 106 altogether. That will still play an important role in certain site-specific contributions. We have proposed one of the highest SIL rates outside of London, the fact which has not escaped the planning press or the development community, and we're also the first council to adopt SIL after the new version of NPPF was published this summer. I can assure members that despite the high rate, this has been fully tested to ensure that schemes will remain viable and maintain the rate of delivery. This was accepted by the inspector in examination, and one of the benefits to the development industry over the Section 106 system is that it takes out the uncertainty for developers in calculating the viability for a particular site, and it returns to a tariff system which has gone out of favour with the Section 106. We've suggested an implementation date of the 1st of March 2019. There has been some suggestions that we're delaying planning applications so that they'll come into SIL rather than Section 106. Refute that absolutely, and the fact that we are allowing such a long period before we start to charge SIL strikes the evidence for that we are not trying to cause problems to the development industry. We're trying to make this as easy for them as possible. We strike an appropriate balance between the preparation for the development industry on the introduction of SIL, and also it allows time for our internal teams to get the systems in place to ensure the introduction of the appropriate processes for the receipt and spending of the SIL money. So I commend the 3 recommendations to you this evening. Charging schedule, along with the instalments policy, a policy on phasing and payments in kind, and the implementation date of the 1st of March 2019.
Councillor Story, thank you very much. Colleagues, does anyone else wish to speak to this item? No? I think it's been a long time coming. It's really good that this passed very robust inspection, and as Councillor Story said, it is a high rate of SIL that has been set, but we are conscious in Waverley that we do need that tariff. We need the monies for our residents to see and enable us to deliver the infrastructure that is required to go along with the building that is also required over the forthcoming years. And I would like to especially thank both the portfolio holder and all the officers for all their hard work, because an awful lot of work has gone into this over a very long period of time. So my thanks to all of you who've been involved in this, and also to the various scrutiny committees who've looked at this, the ONS committee and so forth, who've also worked on this at times for us and given us their feedback. It is really good that this is now coming forward. As Councillor Story says, there is a phasing plan and full implementation will be the 1st of March 2019, which actually isn't very far away. So on that note, colleagues, there are 3 recommendations before you this evening. Are those agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. Moving to the next item, item 5. This is the Sweetman judgment and the requirement for a supplementary note on the Thames Basin Heath and the Hindhead avoidance strategies. Again, this comes under Councillor Story's portfolio. So, Councillor Story, if I can ask you to introduce this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. One of the problems with the use of technology rather than paper is you have to switch from one application to another. So excuse me while I find my notes. Okay. First of all, echoing what you've just said in relation to SIL, I'd like to thank the Environment ONS Committee for their deliberations on this issue. And I'm very pleased that the result of that was the support from that committee for the amendments which have been made to the strategy. The report before you deals with the necessary procedural updates to the implementation of 2 of the Council's avoidance strategies for developments with the potential to impact on protected sites within the borough. This follows the Sweetman judgment earlier this year. The report puts forward an approach for a supplementary note to update the avoidance strategies, which gives clarity to developers and residents about how these applications will be dealt with in terms of European law. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Story. Colleagues, does anyone else have anything they wish to add to that? No? In that case, we have 1 recommendation before you. Colleagues, is that agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 6, the procurement of the waste recycling and street cleaning contract. I, again, believe I have no speakers, so if I can move to the portfolio holder, Councillor Bolton.
Thank you, Chairman. In exactly 1 year's time, our contract for waste and street cleaning with Veolia will cease. The replacement would be one of the highest value and longer duration contracts which this council will award. Although perhaps humdrum, it is a very important service. Every week, the refuse lorries visit all 52,000 dwellings in our borough. The lifetime of the contract is dictated by the economic lifetime of the vehicles, generally accepted to be about 8 years. The Scrutiny Committee carried out a review and concluded with suggested options going forward. These were followed as detailed in the agenda, and we have come to our conclusions and recommendations. I would like to acknowledge the significant work done by officers with our advisors. As an indication of the work that was done, one of the tenderers submitted over 400 pages of content for analysis. I am confident we've come to the right conclusion. The open market replies were competitive and similar in cost, although the winner was definitely of better quality. Officers and our advisors who reviewed the tender replies independently came to similar conclusions about the quality. The costs for the various options are given in the exempt annex. I note with considerable satisfaction that the recommended option is under budget, thus making an important contribution to the Council's wish to have a balanced budget now and in the future. I commend the recommendations to the Executive.
Thank you. Councillor Bolton. Councillor Mrs King.
Thank you very much indeed, Leader. I'm really sorry, but I can't agree with the portfolio holder that this is humdrum. It isn't. It's one of the most important items for our residents, having their bins emptied on time and efficiently every week. And I certainly know from comments in my ward that this is hugely valued by the residents. They think it's a great service. They don't want to see anything change. They want to see it carrying on, and I'm sure it will under the new contractor, as seamlessly as it does now. But can I put a plea in to make sure that the one thing that doesn't carry on, that is in fact improved, is road sweeping? I have huge complaints in my ward about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor King. Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Leader. I'd like to say, and I very rarely do this, what a fantastic job the team that worked on this have done. Not only have they managed to maintain the levels of service that we expected to see, they've also come in under budget. This is a service that affects every single one of our residents' households. And for those of us that were involved early on from the finance point of view, early doors there was some doubt as to whether we could expect to see a very sizable hike in the bill just to continue to provide the same level of service to residents. But thank you to the hard work of the officers and some of the directors involved, picking through, as Councillor Bolton said, extremely lengthy contributions. By a team effort, we've managed to come in under budget and still provide the same level of service with good customer responses to our residents. So thank you all concerned.
Councillor Hall, thank you. Councillor Denis.
Thank you, Leader. It's just a very quick point. I think it's really pleasing to see that this has been decided on quality. You know, so often contracts are really based on values, but actually the deciding factor was the quality for us and therefore the quality for our residents. So it's just really an observation. I think that's a really good way forward. I was really pleased to see that was a deciding factor.
Thank you, Councillor Denis. Yeah, I think it is absolutely crucial that this is the right contract and has been decided using what I call the right criteria, and that has to be not just about cost and coming in on budget. It has to be about the quality and the customer service that will be delivered. As Councillor Hall so rightly said, this service, it affects every part of the borough. It affects all our residents in some way, shape or form. And it's something that everybody sees. It's something that, you know, really does matter to every resident day to day. So I know a huge amount of work has gone into this over significant amount of time by so many people, by not just the portfolio holder, but by a number of officers. And I'd especially like to thank Mr. Homewood and Ms. Wrighton for all of their work in this. It's been excellent, and my thanks to everybody involved. I think we all look forward to this new contract as it rolls out to all of our residents borough-wide. Colleagues, on this item there are 3 recommendations. Are those agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, there's no exclusion of press and public as a result of this meeting, so I therefore close the meeting. Thank you.